Man, the sun is powerful out here. It's a nice breeze, but if you're in direct sunlight, which I recommend everybody to be for as long as you can handle it, uh, it's really kind of disturbing when I get feedback that the sun destroys them, destroys their skin, Y'all got to get back to nature. You have got to have sunlight, water, grounding, and the proper human diet. But that's not what this video is about. And by the way, I've been working with groups of young nurses in training. And so one of them, I'll just call her ET, brought in some food for the unit. And it was starchy carbohydrates. And I outright rejected that food because I don't eat that kind of food. However, Miss E.T., who suffers from restless princess syndrome, the energy and the heartfelt energy of giving did not go unnoticed. The sometimes even bad food given with the right intention and then infused with the energy of love, of caring, of saying thank you, showing appreciation. Sometimes you can take bad food and actually make it good because of the spirit in which it was given. That is another video for another time. What I want to talk about today is the stark difference that we do not seem to get between what you are and who you are. I like the way that came out. Who? Your whatness versus your who-ness. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, from the top down, we are the extensions into the third dimension. And obviously, every other dimension leading down here. We are the extension of the thinking and the energy of prime source that you guys call God. I try to take the word God out of the vocabulary because it brings up too much religious connotations, which when I look at religion now, it is clear that it is a mind control program. Mind control. Now you don't take Constantine at the Council of Nicene, just, take out 45 books, 45 degrees of the Bible. I mean, that's insane. But to those and it's expected, by the way, because if we looked at those 45 books, we would find that they are the ones that have the esoteric teachings, that have the metaphysical teachings, that empower you rather than disempower you and make you dependent on something outside of yourself, which can never happen. I've already told you, the fundamental belief is to go inside. Believe in yourself if you're going to have belief, but ultimately you must know. So if you want to use faith and belief temporarily until you get to the point of knowing, that's fine. But we must ultimately know. And by knowing, we come out of our whatness. And what is our whatness? Well, our whatness is what everybody asks. Doctor, what's your race? The hell's that got to do with anything? Where are you from? The hell's that got to do with anything? Where'd you go to school? What the hell does that have to do with anything? Who are your parents? What does that have to do with anything? What kind of doctor are you? What does that have to do with anything? What is your culture? What does that have to do with anything? In other words, my whatness, my race, my skin color, like that has to do with anything. What, the pigmentation on my skin, my eye color. What does that have to do with anything? I'll tell you what it has to do. Absolutely nothing. Because it has nothing to do with who you are. Your whatness, your geographical location, your culture, your belief system that comes from whatever religion that you subscribe to, your education, your current geographic locale, right? Voting for one team over another team. What does that have to do with anything? Because when you move on from this 3D, I'll just call it prison system. I mean, the primary matrix is not a prison system. It is the world system itself. It is the dark cabal. It is the shadow governments and all the negative, dark thinking involved. When we move, and we will move to the next level, none of your whatness is going with you. You know, your blackness, your whiteness, all that stuff, your moneyness. I've talked to you guys about this before. Your status, your marriage status, your single status, your popularity, none of that is going with you. What is going with you are the lessons that you've learned energetically. Your true assessment of yourself, moving up the energy ladder so that you can begin to, almost like you're dwelling in a forest and lost. You see a mountain, and the mountain's been there for years. And finally you decide to go up the mountain. It takes energy, it takes sacrifice, it takes will. But eventually, every step of the way up, when you look back, you get a new perspective. Move up higher, a new perspective. Move up higher, a new perspective, till the point where you realize who you are is nothing of what is down there in that forest. That is not your whatness is not who you are. You are a spiritual light being having a physical incarnation in a human body called the avatar, a space traveler in an astronaut suit. Your who-ness is the light in Christ, which is the spiritual light of the entire universe and universes. That's right, I said it. It's more than one. There's a multiverse out there. Or as some would like to say now, the metaverse. So when people begin to ask me the questions of whatness, I mean, if I'm meeting you for the first time and getting to know you, it's just kind of social courtesies for people don't want to know your whatness. But you got to understand, your whatness doesn't explain much. unless your self-identity is so intertwined into your whatness that you cannot remember your who-ness. It is your who-ness that goes with you through eternity. Your whatness will go 6 feet under. I said it. Your whatness will go 6 feet under. It is not coming along for the long haul. It is not coming along for the spiritual journey ahead. It cannot. They are conceptual frameworks designed to distort, designed to divide. It shouldn't be. But here in this matrix, it does. This is why we can have war, because of the separateness, because everything is identified by whatness. I mean, even in the same religion, we have religious sects literally making war against one another. Is that insane? We have subsects of the same religion that follows the same, quote, book at war. We have cultures that force people to do things that they wouldn't normally do naturally, but they have to do it because of their whatness. People, let me tell you something. At some point, if you hope to master this game, if you hope to master this matrix game, you will have to start to get out of your whatness thinking and get deep into your who-ness thinking. And I'm going to have more on that. What does it mean to be a spiritual light being having a physical incarnation? I've given little hints and some videos along the way and some metaphysical teachings and esoteric teachings, etc., etc. Do not mistake this for this crazy New Age nonsense either. Another religion designed to confuse you. Another mind control. Co-intel-pro. Controlled opposition. Don't fall for it. Absolute nonsense. And before I go, heartfelt thanks to those of you who give. Before I go, remember, there are 2 things that will kill you dead. As though someone could be killed alive. It will kill you dead. That is the toxic seed oils, i.e. vegetable oils, and high carbohydrate starchy sugars. They will kill you dead. On every video, I'm going to leave you with something like this. You've got to be constantly reminded. And for the majority of you who are already dealing with metabolic dysregulation, I'm not even talking about metabolic syndrome. We want to catch things as early as possible. This is why self-awareness is important. But again, when you're identifying with your whatness, you go to your annual physical, have them sticking things all over you, coming up with lab interpretations that are meaningless. And because it's the doctor, his whatness, which has nothing to do with his who-ness, you'll follow it. Just like religion. Modern allopathic medicine has become the new religion. And the priests and the pastors and the bishops are the doctors, nurses, PAs, physician assistants, and nurse practitioners. That is the new religion. And because of your belief in your new priest, like a good little forest dweller, you do as you're told. Now go out and be a little bit different sit down and get some original thinking into that mind. Because it is only through not a deprogramming and reprogramming, a complete renewing of that mind interface. Remember, I talk about soul, mind, which is the interface, and physical avatar. That mind is, for most of us, has been corrupted. It needs to be uncorrupted. And my whole purpose on this journey is to teach you how to uncorrupt your thinking. And you will always have corrupted thinking if you identify with your whatness instead of resting your head in your who-ness. Thank you. See you on the other side.